Hey YouTube, Night Slicer here. While I sort the next deck for our next video here, figured I might as well do a little rant here. Um, Last night, shortly before I decided to go to bed, I decided to post a thread on Pojo regarding a question that I've been asked a lot at my locals. And it's a question I've had also on my mind a lot as well, which is specifically regarding the priority thing regarding ignition effects. Specifically, being able to, when you normal summon a monster with an ignition effect and your opponent, let's say, tries to bottomless, you can say, I will utilize my priority, or as most of you know it, I'll call my priority. It's technically just saying, I'm going to utilize my priority to do such and such thing with its effect. Well, as most of you know, this ruling regarding priority and ignition effects has changed in the OCG, which is great for them. But for those of us who live here in TCG land, it kind of screws us over, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, especially when some of our players go to Worlds and we get kind of screwed because a game mechanic, though people don't want to call it a game mechanic, let's just say a ruling that Konami wants to hand out, basically disappears and puts us at a slight disadvantage. So on this thread, I basically asked the question, why has there been no change here in TCG land? Shortly after, Ness, as most of you know, likes to close down a lot of threads as soon as they're basically asked or brought up. And which this basically happened. There was one post prior, and then it gets closed. No real explanation whatsoever, like normal, from the mods from Pojo, which I feel that's one of the biggest problems with when they close threads. I feel there should be a reasoning behind it, and they should state a reason. At the very least, they should send a personal message to the person that created the thread. However, they don't. The whole issue here is never really got an answer. From Ness, the best answer was, it just takes time. Well, those of you who actually can really think here, and also agreed with most people here in the TCG about the ruling regarding exceeds, which I know you may question, what does this have anything to do with exceeds and all? Well, the whole thing was, we all who paid attention saw the whole exceed thing, and they decided to go with a different ruling that it seems like they came up with at the last second out of nowhere, instead of going with Japan's ruling. So, and as you all know, all sorts of issues ensued from that. For example, people topping with decks that technically should not have probably topped. Tour Guide's price easily doubled, if not more. Let's see here, what else do we have here? A whole lot of confusion, which in fact I still have to deal with on a relatively regular basis sometimes. So yeah. And then almost immediately, a month after, they just make one statement that, oh, sorry, we were wrong. And everything goes back to the OCG way. The thing is from what Ness says, it takes time for these things to get fixed. Well, if we would just go with the OCG, it wouldn't take any time. It would basically just require someone, let's say, Kevin or Julia, I don't know who, pop out, just say, hey, guys, priority regarding ignition effects, you don't get to you don't get to use your priority with that when you summon the monster immediately. You don't get that ability anymore. And it'll take a little time for word to spread around, just like the whole thing with Exceeds, but it would be resolved relatively fast. It would probably, in my opinion, similar to the Exceeds for the most part, take about a week for the majority of players to become aware of it. So, I don't buy that as an explanation from Ness that we haven't gotten a change because, oh, it's just going to take time. Well, as far as I can recall, the OCGs had a difference as far as priority regarding ignition effects for probably about 5 months, I believe. I may be wrong, but I know it's been a while. That's one thing I can say. It has been a little while. Uh, so, if they really were preparing, I think they could have at least gotten it done within a month. Because if I recall, the priority thing changed when they got the starter deck 2011. So that whole explanation sounds incredibly stupid to me. So after my thread was closed, I decided, okay, I didn't get the answer I wanted, and I didn't really get to have a discussion about this, thanks to Ness. So I decided to recreate the thread and label it Part 2. Which, just to cover this right now, it is officially closed again by Ness. I actually got a chance to have some actual discussion this time, which was nice to a degree. Only problem is I had a lot of people that just thought I was an overzealous judge that was just trying to make myself feel important, or that I'm just trying to bitch and moan and complain. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not bitching and moaning. It's a good question. Why has there been no change? I feel it's a question that needs to be answered. I will say I do not like the priority with ignition effects because, to be honest, if you've ever had to judge for tournaments, you know it can be a big pain in the butt when people that are relatively new are not aware of it because it's not in the rule book. It's not actually in the rule book. They make a generalized statement regarding priority saying that it gives you a chance to utilize an effect before your opponent, but they never state that when you summon a monster, you get to utilize that priority to activate their effect. They never state that. So, a lot of new players never become aware of it unless they actually talk to some other experienced player or are lucky enough to stumble upon it online. So, just for as far as I'm concerned, simplicity for new players, they really need to remove priority regarding ignition effects. But the general consensus I kept getting from these people is, as a head judge, or judge in general, as those of you who know me, I am a head judge at my locals. I'm also the head judge at my place of employment, specifically Hometown Comics. And I know I'm not very liked by a lot of people here in Indiana as far as judging, but those people that at least take the time to actually listen to me and actually respect me tend to have no issues with me. It's the people that come in and try to be complete assholes to me. But I get asked the question on a regular basis about priority and all the questions about it and all that stuff. Well, in my opinion, my job as a judge is to help new and veteran players, new to intermediate to veteran players, understand the game. When they're asking me a question regarding a game mechanic, specifically priority with ignition effects, stating, why has there been no change when they have a change in Japan? Seeing as they seem to try at least to sync things up to a degree. Well, all I can say to them is, I don't know. And in my opinion, that's unreasonable. And in fact, it makes me feel like I fail with my job. I should know these answers. And that's why I basically created this thread, was to see if I could get an answer. Which I also followed up and sent an email to Konami. So far, no response. Not surprising. I don't expect a response even within a week's time, within a month's time. So, we'll see. If I do get something back, I will have a video about it. Either way, the judges on there, specifically Redshift, felt As a judge, our only responsibility is to the tournament and making sure people follow the proper policies and rulings, and to make sure the tournament runs smoothly. But as far as helping players out in terms of, oh, this is how you do this and that, and how to play the game, oh, that's not our responsibility. Well, he's technically right by the Konami standard, but the thing is most head judges that I'm aware of tend to also hold free plays as well. So we can get new players, test decks out, and stuff like that. Well, free play is rife with new players, and you need to be able to help them understand these concepts. Well, honestly, if you don't buy a concept, like I don't buy a priority with ignition effects, it's a load of bullshit. It's something we shouldn't have. It never should have been created. And at least Japan recognized this. I don't know why America can't seem to recognize it. But it's already hard enough for new players to understand it. So I just feel it's a judge's job to do a service to the players, no matter their skill level, to try to help them be better at the game. Because after all, we know, those of you who have played the game for as long as I have, the problems with this game. Right now, the problems go down to currently priority regarding ignition effects, the chaining system's a little screwed up sometimes, and you guys know it if you've had to deal with the resolving certain crap and it all getting overcomplicated because of how the chain system works. Uh, the other thing that tends to be hard for people to remember is the damage step rules, like what you can use and stuff like that. Even I have a little bit of trouble with it because it doesn't really come up that massively often. So it's a little hard for people to remember. If we could resolve these three issues, I think the game would be a whole lot more healthy, at least for just playing sake. There's more issues within the game, of course, but as far as game mechanics go, I think those are the big issues. Um, if you agree with me, great. If you disagree, let me hear it in the comments. At least try to not be a troll about it. Actually create a constructive argument against me if you want to argue against me. So either way, Awesome89 Slicer signing out.